Welcome to the Crypto Compliance Podcast by Gatenox.
Pawel Kuskowski welcoming Crypto Compliance by Gatenox, where compliance experts and practitioners are talking about current market events and general compliance aspects. We promote the highest standards of compliance in crypto, bringing interesting topics and talk about current market events. I would like to ask you to subscribe to our channel, leave your comment and share it. Let's together promote compliance culture in crypto and Web3. Please also check our website, gatenox.com. Gatenox is the fastest network and tailored corporate KYC solution with Web3 capabilities. With Gatenox, you can onboard corporate clients by working in a trusted and compliant ecosystem with Web3 capabilities. Today, we have a special guest, Zach Burks. Zach is the CEO of Mintable and Mintology. He's a blockchain developer turned CEO who's been in the blockchain space since 2012. Zach fell in love with NFTs when they were created and has since built many things related to NFT that improved the entire ecosystem. In 2018, he founded Mintable and the next generation NFT marketplace built on Ethereum and Zigla blockchain for buying, selling, creating NFTs. Mintable has since helped over 200,000 creators monetize their work via NFT. During today's session, we spoke about NFT from the regulatory definition, potential and future of NFTs, how to broaden client base of NFT markets, and the MUM test in terms of usage. And why, if you want to start crypto business, don't do this from the US. Stay tuned. Thank you. Hi, Zach. Welcome in Crypto Compliance. I'm very happy that you are here with me, because you've been recommended by many people in the industry to talk about NFTs, the promise, the risks, the compliance aspects. You are CEO of Mintable and Mintology. So tell me about your background and tell me about, what these companies are about.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. I appreciate it being on here. I've got a variety of lengthy background in crypto. I've been in crypto since 2011, 2012 is when I found Bitcoin. And I'll give you the short abbreviated version. So I was in the military at the time, found Bitcoin in 2011, 2012. 2014, I get out of the military and I start going really heavy into crypto. I've always been a nerd. So I knew a little bit of programming languages, and eventually end of 2015, 2016, I ended up becoming a smart contract developer on Ethereum, converted all my Bitcoin over to Ethereum. And kind of the rest is history. I worked on different projects as a developer. And I found CryptoPunks when they came out and they launched. And it was early 2017, and I found these CryptoPunks, and I thought, oh, that's cool, but really stupid. Why would I want one of those? And that's a huge mistake, obviously. I wish I would have gotten as many as I could have because they were free. But it was the 721 idea, this non-fungibility idea that stuck with me. And from CryptoPunks, I started experimenting. Later in the year, CryptoKitties came out, and I was the first person to make money on CryptoKitties. And this is, again, before the ERC 721 standard was finalized. And I started working really heavily into NFTs. Not by choice. It wasn't something that I said, I'm only going to focus on NFTs. But it just happened that way. I just have a passion for NFTs. I love NFTs. And so I've only worked on NFTs since 2017, essentially. I wrote the royalty standard for NFTs, which is ERC 2981. The Ethereum Foundation has reached out to me to work on the 721 standard. I've created the first DAO that uses NFTs with no ERC 20 tokens. Then in 2018, I created Mintable. Mintable was the first of its kind on the internet. It allowed you to make an NFT, to transfer an NFT, to manage your NFTs before the 721 standard was finalized. And so what that meant was, essentially, as I was doing my research, I realized I built the first tool of the kind on the internet, which is a huge business opportunity that I saw. So that's how I started Mintable. And over the years, I built up Mintable, and now it's 2023. So my God, it's almost been 5 years now. That's insane. And not very many crypto companies last 5 years, I'll tell you what. So I'm quite proud of that. And we're still doing very well. We're hiring still, and everything's healthy. The landscape has changed dramatically from 2017 up until now. And I've learned a lot. Mintable has grown a lot. We've launched Mintology as well, as you mentioned, which is for enterprise clients. Mintable is a consumer marketplace for just anyone that wants to trade an NFT. And Mintology is more for these enterprise clients. So we work with some of the largest brands in the world. We work with some of the largest financial institutions in the world. We're partnered with MasterCard. We're partnered with Amazon Web Services, Amazon, and the list goes on and on. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
That sounds really impressive. Like what's happening. I think, like from my perspective, NFT and in general, rights, kind of registration on blockchain is one of the ownership and rights registration on blockchain is one of the biggest promise of the blockchain itself. I don't think, it's like financial transactions mostly about, like storing value and sharing value. That's something, and that, NFT is critical. But recently, what's happening in the US is kind of interesting. Is there a risk, from your perspective? Do you see this? But, over time, the SEC would come to anyone who issued NFTs and to say, like, listen, that's security. And, in this situation, you need to, I don't know, register with official exchange, or I don't know what's going to happen. But that's something which is a big question mark right now for me.
Right. No one knows what's going to happen, actually. And so this uncertainty around the U.S. markets and U.S. regulation is why I actually, when I started Mintable, I did not want to start a crypto company in America. And this was in 2018. So I knew already in 2018 that America was not the place for crypto innovation. And we've seen this before. We've seen uncertainty. We've seen vagueness. Going back around 2017, 2018, the IRS put out their fact sheet, essentially, of how they're going to treat crypto. And it was still full of holes, and it didn't apply to a lot of things like airdrops or forks and things like that, or spam tokens if someone sends you a token. And so all of this combined with just an overall sentiment of, if you're going to make a crypto company, do not do it in America. So we incorporated in Singapore. Singapore had crypto-friendly regulation from 2018. In 2018, the Singapore government actually made NFTs. Most people don't know that. They did diplomas as NFTs.
2018?
Yeah, in 2018, it's pretty crazy. So they also have a progressive policy, right? So they treat currencies, whether it is like in-game currencies you buy on the Play Store or Apple Store, or whether it's vouchers or Bitcoin or Ethereum, they treat them in certain regulatory environments that it is applicable for what they are. So they have kind of a clear guidance. They're also pretty recently, around last year, they came out around NFTs and said that they were going to treat NFTs in a manner that is a case-by-case basis, essentially. So if I give you an NFT that is one share of Tesla, well, they're going to look at that as a security. But if I give you an NFT that is a happy birthday card, they're going to say that's a happy birthday card. That's not a security, right? And that's a very pragmatic approach, especially coming from a government. And so, when you look at the U.S. is just all over the place. We've got the CTFC claiming one thing. The SEC is claiming something else. Those are not directly related to NFTs per se. They're related to, tokens. But NFTs do get dropped here and there across different either memos or requests for information. So one of the things I've been trying to do is I've been trying to get on one of the committees or one of the congressional hearings around how they're going to regulate NFTs, what the authority is behind them, how to treat them as an asset class. I saw the IRS release a document, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, about how they would tax NFTs, and whether they would be deemed as a collectible or as property. And essentially, it wasn't a finalized document, but instead it was saying, hey, we are researching this. Reach out to us here if you have comments, which is better than just coming out, at the end of the year and having no comment period and trying to push out some regulation like they did, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? The SEC tried to go and do some behind the scenes during Christmas regulatory push that would have been damaging for the crypto industry. So there's this vast uncertainty that is coming. You may have heard of Operation Choke Point, right?
Yeah, of course.
And we don't know if this is true or not, right? We don't know if there's actually an Operation Choke Point, but it seems like it's a concerted effort to go after the crypto industry, right? At least in America. And then you have to ask yourself, the chairman of the SEC, Gary Gensler, he had a pretty big failure with FTX, right? And FTX happened under his watch. He met with Sam Bankman-Fried. He has connections to their family. And then after this failure happens on his watch, there's this Operation Choke Point, right? And it's almost as if, he knows that he's under pressure and that he needs to do something. And that's what some people think online. Right now, we'll see. There's been a lot of court cases filed from multiple different agencies, and I'm sure we're going to see more court cases filed from different agencies to different parties. There's been a few settlements that's happened in the last year as well with the SEC around staking and different security-related aspects. So until we have a certain set of policies that is fair, that doesn't stifle innovation, I don't see the U.S. as being particularly crypto-friendly at all. You can't get a bank account if you're a crypto company. If you want to register as a security, you have to jump through all these hoops. And then every time that you were to do any typical blockchain thing that you would do if you ran a layer one, you have to then re-register. And that costs hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars and months of paperwork. So what you saw in 2017 and 2018 was all the ICOs basically said, yeah, everyone can participate except for Iranians, North Koreans, and Americans, right? And so it was like we're being treated, differently as an American. We can't participate because it's just unclear of the stance. And even Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of XRP, he just recently was sued by the SEC in his personal capacity from something in 2013 before there was really any regulatory framework or any form of guidance from these agencies. And, his statement on Twitter, I think, is a pretty fair statement. If you look up Brad Garlinghouse on Twitter, you'll see him talk about it. I don't want to quote it, but it's essentially, it's just not fair. And I think what we need is we need proper guidance, and we need to understand that there are other countries. We're in some would say a different type of Cold War. Ray Dalio will say that we're in 4 out of 5 phases of war. The only thing we're not in is the actual physical invasion of troops with like China. And if America stifles this innovation of a financial institution, so to speak, right? You have a global financial institution with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if they stifle that, they're going to miss out. And if we come to find that a digital version of a CBDC, so, whether it's Australian dollars, whether it's the Chinese yuan, whether it's you name it, could come out, and it could be backed by a basket of currencies, but on a blockchain. And when you look at the world reserve currency concerns right now around the US dollar, that looks pretty lucrative. And the US should look at it as a national security issue and say, hey, we are jeopardizing ourselves because of this poor regulatory environment that we have created ourselves. And I can talk more on this, like Coinbase went to court with the SEC and basically said, you need to file an answer to this question that's been open for multiple years at that point. And because the SEC didn't want to provide guidance on that specific area, and the court ordered them to do so. And the SEC basically just said, yeah, we'll give you guidance later, which doesn't answer the question, right? And it doesn't help the industry. At the same time, they're going after the good players, right? So they're going after Coinbase, which they approved their IPO, but then they go and sue them. They went after Kraken, which has been compliant pretty much since day one and one of the most trusted exchanges, right? And then on the other side, you have things like FTX. How does that happen, right? Why is that happen? And who's to blame for that? That's how I look at this. Is I say that there's someone to blame for that from a regulatory standpoint. Someone did not protect the consumer, the investors, and there's millions of Americans that are affected by FTX, whereas I don't see millions of Americans being affected by Coinbase right now in a negative manner. Their money isn't lost, right? Coinbase.
They can be, because there is a risk that Coinbase, like under the pressure, can crack and simply lose the value, right? Or the entire crypto ecosystem can fall apart. So that's really interesting. I think the global aspect, and there is, and I'm sure you also heard this, but there is like kind of protecting the traditional financial markets, from kind of this crazy new crypto market which they cannot control. So that's one of the spin, the global aspect that there is a lot of foreign money in the crypto space. So if we open, we lose control over this, and someone else is going to be benefiting from it. So there's a lot of this type of conversations, which we hear, right? But I completely agree that what's happening is like almost without. On one hand, everyone knew, and it's something playing back to NFT space, right? I don't know any NFT market which would say, oh, we have to have KYC, AML checks, and all this stuff. Same with the DeFi space overall. And there's this compliance sector which is saying, oh, we saw this coming, and it should be actually done in this way because that's clearly breach of the regulations. So what's your view? First, do you think the NFT are captured by by AML requirements in general, or are we too early to say? And what's the sentiment which you see in general to in relation to the regulations in this particular market?
Well, I am by no means a financial expert or a lawyer. I am a crypto first guy, a nerd and a programmer and an entrepreneur and a CEO in a specific industry. What I will say is people call me an expert in my field. And if I was to launder money, I would not do it on the blockchain. There's just absolutely no reason why you would, right? And that's what baffles me the most is, what is it? 99.9% of money laundering happens through fiat currencies.
Oh yeah,
right?
Of course. Like this is well-established market.
Right. And so I even ask, how will you go about laundering money through an NFT and not get caught? And it always goes back to, well, you got to use a mixer, but even mixers are not foolproof. Right. And
okay, so Zach, on this, right? So let's pause on this. The way you can And that's by no means advice how to launder money, right? But effectively, you can have, let's say, digital painting. There you create NFT from this, you put this on OpenSea, and suddenly, there's someone who says like, oh, that's a beautiful painting. And I'm going to pay 2 million from this. And you have very easy transfer from one account to another account. What you say is, listen, somebody bought this, that's legal. So that's about, like something which was completely illicit funds, coming, and they become, legal funds, right? And that's happening,
Right,
let's say, on OpenSea or anywhere, in this without KYC, and it's almost impossible.
Right. I mean, you can do the same for an ERC20. I can create an ERC20 right now for this podcast, and you can go buy it for $1 million, right? But the point is that's traceable. I would be able to see where those source of funds came from, and eventually be able to get a subpoena to whatever centralized exchange service or fiat on-ramp you use, right? And it's just not the best way to do it. It's not an ideal way. It wouldn't even be in the top 10 ways to launder money, in my opinion. And so that's why I see this. Yes, you could do it.
Okay.
I could kill someone with a straw, but I wouldn't use a straw as a murder weapon, right? I would use like a gun or a knife, right? So yes, well, it is technically possible. That argument would still apply for everything, right? Like, I can draw you on a napkin and then you can wire me $1 million, right? The difference is that now we've got your bank account information. The government can look at the bank account information just as if it came from your Binance account or if it came from your Coinbase account. So it's very hard to have untraceable money on the blockchain. Even using a mixer, there's ways that there's analytic firms that are able to reverse mix transactions. So you would know this better than I do. Obviously, working with Gatenox and understanding the KYC and the AML part of it, it may be happening, but I think it would be happening in minute amounts comparison to the amount of money laundering in the actual world. And I also think that it's really stupid and very easily caught. So if someone is doing that, it's just giving the government a free, all they got to do is pull up a few websites and they're able to track it down, send an email to an exchange, and they've got that person's identity.
Yeah. But you see what I mean? It's this and exactly, I hear this a lot in the industry, DeFi space, NFT, it's difficult to launder money, so why we need to apply, the rules, right? And that's coming back to the SEC discussion, all this, let's say, other aspects, when they say like, oh, we have different opinion, right? And our opinion is that you should, and it's time to stop, arguing. And, you can go to court with us, but, we have power to subpoena you or, anything which is, let's say, as a result, right? And it's almost this arguments of, we don't have to be, we don't have to do KYC, we don't have to do AML. And I don't want to put you on spot, but you know what I mean? It's like the industry discussion overall. And like, I meet brilliant people who understand what's the concept and they say like, but why not, right? Why, decentralized finance? We completely decentralized. And I want to come back on the decentralized aspect, to talk with you because I'm sure you have opinion on this. But what do you think about this argument, counter argument?
I think those people you're talking to, which I am one of them in one aspect, and I'll explain a little bit. There's two angels on our shoulders. There's the crypto native, crypto anarchy, financial privacy, financial freedom, and then there is like the business owner, the CEO, who knows that if I'm going to work with MasterCard, if I'm going to work with the central bank of a certain country, that I need to be compliant. I need to do KYC and AML checks, right? So I'm not against regulation when it comes into crypto. And I think you'll hear this from most CEOs and crypto companies is we're not against regulation. We're against harmful and negative regulation that impacts the entire industry as a whole and stifles innovation when it would just go offshore. Because we're talking about American right now, right? So American regulation. And one example of that is Gary Gensler, again, chairman of the SEC or head of the SEC. He literally states, we don't need crypto because US dollars are digital, euro is digital, everything is digital now. So why do we need any more digital currencies, right? And very clearly stating that he is opposed to needing or even wanting cryptocurrencies to be involved in any aspect. Whereas you have other government agencies. I think the UK just passed a pretty prominent crypto bill recently.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have supported it and are looking forward to abiding by those regulations that are clearly laid out. So having reporting requirements to FINRA or FinCEN, having KYC checks over certain amounts, things like this make sense, and I'm for to prevent illicit activities. Of course, no one wants any illicit activities on their business or taking place within their business. So that is definitely something that I'm not opposed. What I'm opposed is a blanket ban or label on, now I'm talking NFTs. I'm opposed that a regulator comes in and says all NFTs are securities because they were on this chain, or all NFTs are security because we don't know what they represent. And whether it's artwork or whether it's a happy birthday card or a share of Tesla stock, we're going to treat it all the same. It's all securities.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean that's actually really well laid out. So what you say is there is a tension right now which is created between industry overall and the regulators, which are kind of not reasonable regulators, right? And there's like, okay, right now both sides are, like in defense, and both sides are, shooting, at each other. But it's a healthy debate at the end, done in the unhealthy way, right? Where is the cutoff point? And I completely agree. And I spoke with so many lawyers on,
I would have to disagree. It is not a healthy debate right now. I would say right now we have a very contested, unhealthy debate around regulations and frameworks, which again goes back to my point of why I'm trying to get in front of the regulators themselves to educate them and let them know, like, you can't do a blanket labeling system because the IRS, as I brought up earlier, their document, their memo that they released was essentially saying there's like two categories of NFTs. There's going to be property and there's going to be collectibles. And guess what? If it's a collectible, the tax rate is like 40% or 30% or something absurd, right? And if it's property, then it's going to be typical property taxes. And I'm like, but what if it's a loyalty card? What if it's just my hotel membership card?
Yeah.
And what if it's a birthday card and I send it to your wallet? Right now, are you going to have to pay 20% tax rate on something like that? Yeah. And that's what we've seen so far with the regulation and the treatment of these assets is, if I airdrop a token into your wallet, you've got to put that on your taxes in America, whether or not you interact with it, whether or not you ask for it, which I think is absurd, because if someone puts something on your doorstep that you don't want, you don't have to report it to the government. Yeah. And on the flip side, now that we have, this is a grief that I have because we use the Growly testnet on Ethereum. Their Layer 0 labs, they released this bridge between testnet and mainnet to monetize testnet Ethereum so that you can sell for real Ethereum. Of course, they take a very large fee out of that bridge. But effectively what that means now is if you're testing as an American and you get Growly testnet ETH, that's taxable. You need to put that on your taxes, and you got to pay taxes on it because now it's got a market that's convertible. And so now they've taken something that should have been development testing, right, where I'm just testing this smart contract, or I'm testing interactions, or I'm playing around with crypto for the very first time, and I got to get my account involved, and I got to file an extra form, and I need to make sure that I have every single transaction reported at the time, the price, and all this.
Yeah.
My mom is not going to do that. And what does that mean? If my mom's not going to do that, if my mom can't comply with that, then that's going to stifle growth and innovation from the American side of things. And so hopefully America doesn't go down that path. And that's what Coinbase.
Okay, I see what you mean. So that's definitely valid point. I mean, same for I think one risk which, and we spoke about this. That we want to do the license wrapped NFT, right? Or NFT. I mean, license wrapped in NFT. And that's something which gonna be typical B2B. But if you look at the current what's proposed in the UK, if we do this from the UK, there's effectively it's going to be promotion, right? Even if the market is different, because we're not going to be selling this to individuals, we're going to be selling this to the companies, right? It could be captured by by promotion requirements, and that we are effectively have the digital assets which we promote to the public, and we need to have all the disclosure requirements, everything, even though it's like completely different product, right? And I mean, it's like it's the way you buy license. It's not
right. It's not an investment.
Yeah, it's not investment. It's not card. It's not picture. It's a specific rights which are wrapped in this digital vehicle, which is easy to transfer. So right. I agree, but you see that's even UK is also going into this rabbit hole, right? With all these things happening. So
well, and that's the problem, is that's that wide net where they say if it's any asset, any crypto asset, I don't care if it's a birthday card, that if you promote it, you're selling an investment.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, no, it's not an investment. Hallmark, they sell birthday cards and all sorts of cards, and they promote it all the time. So why is it any different because it's a e-birthday card, right? If you want to call it an e-birthday card or an NFT, call it what you want. That's what it is. And it's a case-by-case basis, right? If you're going out and you're promoting shares in Manchester United, or you're a gambling website, or you're paying people out through NFTs, yeah, those could be construed as investments, and those should be regulated as such. But there shouldn't be a blanket, and it shouldn't be a wide net cast over the entire industry or sector of assets. And that's the major concern that stifles innovation moving forward. And that's also what businesses think about, right? That's what you think about for your business, and that's what I think about for my business. And then also my clients that we're talking to, they come to me and they say, "Hey, what about this? We wanted to launch on Polygon. Now Polygon is a security." I'm like, well, no, it's not yet. We don't know, calm down. And there's this uncertainty. And when you're talking to multi-billion-dollar companies that are publicly listed, they can't have that uncertainty.
Exactly. I mean, that's 100%. I see this so many, stay away, or be very careful. And even if you when we talk with investors, and we said listen, we want to use NFT in order to sell our licenses. You may think about this, So that's this type of conversation which we have, and it doesn't matter which jurisdiction is it happening from, because at some point you can be, you want to exit to the US entity, right? US VC fund, US, I don't know, capital structure. And then you will be captured by the US regulations and, all this stuff. So that's really tricky situation. And it's so easy it's almost too easy to put the crypto industry in this perils, right? It's with 2 documents, all industries suddenly on the, really on the defense.
The problem here is, you're absolutely right. But the problem here is that when that happens, when you have one document come out, for example, look at the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BNB over the last 48 hours. What happened? You have one announcement of some court action, and now there are millions of dollars that are being lost from either retail investors who are over leveraged, early people, early traders that really don't know what they're doing. They just bought in, and then the price tanks, and then they panic and they sell and they lose money. you don't have a sound foundation and you're actually hurting the participants in this market, which is a multi-billion, hundreds of billions of dollars in size, if not over, it's over $1 trillion in market cap. But, for the everyday person, we're talking, billions. This is painful to them and this hurts them. And that directly goes against what some of these agencies are, their quote unquote purposes. So like the SEC is to protect consumer investors, right? But they're not. If they were protecting investors, they would have taken action previously. They would have had clear guidance, clear policies. They wouldn't be going after, Kraken, who was compliant, filed the right paperwork, and then a year later, they get, hit with a Wells notice and enforcement action around their staking. Same for Coinbase. Why would they approve the IPO for Coinbase and then say, oh, by the way, you guys are unlicensed and you're selling securities? Doesn't make sense, and it hurts people.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Because who uses Coinbase? Do advanced crypto users use Coinbase? No, not really, right? The fees are too high. It's custodial. You start with Coinbase. So the people that are on Coinbase are the most uneducated, the untech savvy, uncrypto savvy people, and they're the ones that are going to get impacted, right? Or they're the ones who say, you know what, I don't want to buy Bitcoin because I don't understand it, but I do understand the stock market, and I know Coinbase is the biggest Bitcoin company in America, so I'm going to buy coin stock, right? And then the SEC comes in and plummets the stock because of their action, because their unclear regulatory environment that they've created themselves. And it's like, you're just hurting more people. So you're literally going against what you're trying to do. And that's why there's some representatives in America who have passed a bill, or not passed a bill, they've introduced a bill to try to get Gary Gensler fired, and then also to kind of repurpose the SEC and modernize it, because we're applying a 90-year-old policy, the Howey test, to assets that were created a few years ago, right? Something that was invented a few years ago, trying to apply a 90-year-old policy to it. Doesn't work.
So where do you see, let's move to the nicer area, so where do you see the biggest innovation in crypto or in blockchain, crypto, NFT, where is the next big thing, happening? And, personally, I think that the rights, and this been discussed and I'm sure you 100% thought about this from the start, that like rights on blockchain, transferring digital rights with the use of blockchain, that's such an obvious thing, right? And why do you think it's not happening to the scale you would expect? I would expect, at least,
Well, for the rights in particular, you need a middleman, right? So let's copyright, trademarks, patents, whatever you want to call it, right? Even registration for vehicles, it goes through a government agency, right? You're either at the U.S. Patent Office, you're at the Department of Motor Vehicles, you're filing, you got some protection under trademark and copyright laws. But if I wanted to make a NFT that represented, a patent, or if I wanted to make an NFT that represented the copyrights to Mintable's logo over there, right? And I wanted to give that to you, there needs to be a middleman that officiates that. Because I can walk into the DMV in California and I can show them my MetaMask and say, hey, look at this Ferrari. I need you to transfer this over to my name because I bought this NFT on OpenSea. And they're going to be like, what? Excuse me? What are you talking about? Right? And you're like, no, I paid $250,000 for this. This is my Ferrari. File the paperwork. And they're going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Please get out of here. Right?
Yeah.
So you need to have a middleman. And most of those middlemen are government agencies. Now, in other areas, in other business aspects, you may not need to have a government agency as a middleman, but a private entity. And those areas are areas that we're going to see adoption be picked up quicker. So ironically enough, financial institutions work with government agencies all the time, but NFTs can be really vital to streamline a lot of what the financial institutions will do that don't necessarily impact their regulatory requirements that they have to abide by. So with that being said, financial institutions, we have talked at Mintable to many, many banks, some of the largest banks in the world, some of the central banks of entire countries, around NFTs and NFT strategies and how they can utilize NFTs. Later this year, there'll be a big announcement about something that we've been working on. It's super exciting, and it's the world's first use case.
Is there anything you can share at this point of time, or what I should book you for the next interview to talk through this case?
I would love to share everything. I wish I could, but I can't, unfortunately.
Right, no worries.
And so that's one example. I think why we haven't seen some of these low-hanging fruit is there's three things to it. So I talked about the middleman aspect. Let's remove that from this list of three. But there's three aspects to it, which is one, it's got to pass the mom test. So I always use the mom test. You've probably, if you Google me or look me up on any other podcast, you'll hear me talking about mom tests. If you see me speak at a conference, I always talk about my mom. My mom is a construction worker. She could barely use Facebook. Okay. She's got like a pop-up blocker and that's it. Right. So she never is going to buy Bitcoin. She uses her money for groceries. She's living, a normal life, not a computer literate person. How do I get her to use her own son's business or website? So how do I go to my mom and say, Mom, use Mintable? She's going to be like, well, I don't understand it. I'm sorry, this is too complicated. So we have to pass this mom test. And what that actually translates to is user adoption, right? Is how easy is it for a user to be able to do something? If you remember, really early on when mobile telephones came out, and you had a telephone in your car. Well, how many people had a telephone in their car, right? What was that? What was that user experience like having a telephone? Right? It was a corded phone, of course, too, right? And then now everyone lives off their phones, won't even have a computer, right? Because we've solved that adoption problem to get it in the hands of everyone. So that's the first thing is the ease of use. Do you need a wallet? Do you have to buy crypto? Do you got to go through KYC? Wait a while, transfer money, get a new wallet, transfer from Coinbase over to MetaMask, then finally go over to Mintable? That's way too much. That's never going to happen, right? Only the most diehard people will do that. And so at Mintable, we go by the mom test. And same with Mintology. We built everything around my mom, making sure that my mom could do it. And we've had a few discussions.
What are the features, Zach, which you believe? Because you can argue on the mom tests. You can say that there are moms which are, more digital savvy, and it's still, let's say, 30, 40%, 50%, whatever is the percent, of the market. So why not focus on this, this sector and this type of experience? So that's one. And second, what are the features you believe could solve this or solves this problem, right?
Yeah, well, let me clarify when I say the mom test. I'm talking about my mom. So your mom.
I know.
So it's only my
basically
mom, right?
She's your beta tester.
Right. And I love it. I love it when my employees go and they start talking about my mom. I'm like, hey, don't talk about my mom like that.
But you realize that you probably your mom is already very, very much, computer literate after this so many iteration of.
Yeah. Well, she's used it, right? And so we just did a Mother's Day campaign. And so I sent my mom a NFT as a Mother's Day NFT.
All right, nice.
And she got it, right? And she claimed it. And she was able to do that because she has a pop-up blocker. She's installed MetaMask. She doesn't know what MetaMask is. She doesn't understand it. But it pops up as there's a little blue button. It's pretty easy for her to click submit. She doesn't know what she just did, but she just minted an NFT or she just claimed an NFT, whatever it may be, right? But it doesn't require her to have crypto. So that's one of the main things. So with Mintology and Mintable, we have gasless minting. And specifically with Mintology, there's only... And I think this is going to be shocking to a lot of people when you talk about NFTs. There's about 5 to 6 million people on the planet that have NFTs. So you have Coinbase, you have Binance, you have Mintable, you have OpenSea, you have Rarible, And the whole list goes on and on of all the different NFT marketplaces that have either billions of dollars or they're startups, and they're all competing for 5 or 6 million people.
Wow.
Right. Right.
Wow.
So
this is
that's
unbelievable.
Right. I'm not. I'm Mintable is a great company, but Mintable is not the size of Binance or Coinbase.
Yeah.
And so if we're trying to go advertising dollar for dollar for this 5 million people, Coinbase and Binance are going to win. Right. So how do you reach the other 7 billion people? Right. You can get rid of another billion because some are kids, some are elderly, right? How do you reach 1 billion people? Right. And that's that mom test. And so what we've done is some of the features with like Mintology is we've said, look, my mom, she goes to Starbucks. My mom, she's got a loyalty membership for the grocery store that she goes to right across, down the street from where she lives. They have foot traffic coming in their doors, tens of thousands of people a day. And sometimes they're very loyal customers to that brand, whether it's Starbucks or a luxury brand, whether it's a car manufacturer, whether it's Amazon. People are, loyal to those brands and they're customers of those brands. Those brands also like money. And if you can offer them a way to make money and to engage that loyal user base that they have to continue to come back, which gives them even more money. So they get money from the NFTs, they get money from the user engagement. Then they also get the marketing aspect of being able to say, look, we're embracing Web3. All of that is how you reach that billion other people, not the 5 million that Coinbase and Binance and everyone's fighting over, right? It's going through brands. So, and that's what Mintology is all about, is brands. And what we've done is we've basically made it so that if you're in line at Starbucks and there's one person in front of you, we want you to be able to scan a QR code, you get an NFT, you get a wallet, everything is done on your phone with one click. You sign in with Apple, you sign in with Google, you sign in with Gmail, Discord, Twitter, whatever you want to sign in with, single sign-on. And before the person in front of you is finished ordering, you have already gotten the Starbucks NFT or whatever, any coffee shop, because Starbucks has their own NFT program, right? So maybe I shouldn't use Starbucks as an example. But any coffee shop's NFTs, before the person in front of you is done ordering, you've already got that loyalty card. You present it at the counter, and then they scan it with their barcode, and you get 10% off, right? They also, the brand now.
Yeah, but Zach, why do you think it's like you need blockchain for this as opposed to simple internal process for Starbucks?
That is a great question. We get this asked all the time. Why not just a coupon? You're talking about 10% off. We already do 10% off coupons.
Yeah.
So the first thing I say is, okay, how many people redeem those coupons? And how are you able to retarget the people that redeem those coupons or have utilized those coupons? And their answer is like, well, we can't. We just send them out in spam through their letterbox. Yeah. And we go, exactly. But with the NFT, you have their email, right? Because they've signed in with their Apple account or their Gmail or their Twitter or whatever it may be. You have a way to contact them. You've onboarded them into your ecosystem, and it's some asset that they still control. With a coupon, I'm going to ask you right now, and I already know the answer, and I know the answer for myself. Where is a coupon at in your house? You don't know, do you?
Oh, I don't even take it, like I know that I'm going to lose it. So
exactly. Now,
okay,
where
so
your NFT? What if you had an NFT from a year ago for Mother's Day, and it's for, I just had a child. So I've been going to a lot of baby stores. So if that baby store gave me an NFT for Mother's Day or for the birth of my child, and then next Mother's Day comes around and I hear a radio ad for that same brand saying, oh, if you got our NFTs, you're going to get a free XYZ. They've now just re-engaged me through that original coupon, which they couldn't do with the traditional coupon, right? And they can add on to it. They can say, oh, we're a luxury shoe brand, and we're releasing this brand new style of shoes. And if you had our previous NFT, or if you engage with our previous NFT campaign, you can come into the store a day early to buy those shoes before we release it to the public, right? And then they have a VIP list, essentially, of people that are already going to come into their store before their launch to help increase that publicity, to give them a gauge of the success of that product launch or to sell to their most loyal fan base. But they can't do that through traditional means because that NFT allows for this re-engagement, and it's also extremely cheap, at least with Mintology, right? If you want to do it yourself, you've got to pay a ton of money. But with Mintology, we can make NFTs for free on Ethereum with no gas costs and no strings attached. So I actually just had a call earlier today with one of our clients to get some numbers from them on their latest numbers. In less than a month, they've made over 1 million NFTs. Those users, there's about 80,000 of them, are in the age demographic of 50 to 75 years old. And they made over 1 million NFTs. And it's a very traditional business. And it's in the actual, the physical location. It's not retail. It's in the actual physical location. There is a device that you're interacting with that displays the NFT, right? So you have this 50 to 75-year-old demographic interacting in person with an electronic device. They're touching something. It shows their NFT. They're engaging with NFTs. And guess what? They have a custodial wallet set up through us. They've got their NFTs being hosted by us. Everything is going through us. They don't have to worry about the blockchain. And then they're still able to engage with the brand. And they don't have to go through us. So they never leave the brand's ecosystem. So for the brand, it's a win-win. The brand is able to keep the user inside, and we've removed all the friction. So that allows them to
move outside? Can they transfer to some other, I don't know, like exchange Starbucks points, to, I don't know, like Coffee Heaven or anything like this, like would you foresee this?
That's so I mentioned there's two parts, right? Like I'm a CEO, but I'm also a crypto dude. So on the crypto side, of course, you can take your NFTs, go do with it whatever you want, right? If you want to go sell it on a competitor's website, go for it. It's crypto. It's yours, right? If you want to take custody of the wallet, take custody of the wallet. It's yours, right? We're not gonna lock you in. That's not the crypto way to do it. That's not Web3. So they're free to do whatever they want with it. Now, that's if they know how or if they want to. For your question about redeeming, like say Starbucks NFTs for another coffee franchise's NFTs, that's interesting. That's actually the first time someone's ever asked me that question of interoperability between two different brands. That's not impossible from a technical standpoint, but that would require a partnership between those two brands, right? So if those two brands did have that sort of relationship, and we see this, for example, Samsung, may partner with Tesla for their battery manufacturing, or they may license out their battery manufacturing, right, from Tesla. And so there's these joint partnerships, and we could see one around NFTs. If two companies are doing NFTs, you might be able to see a redemption. In fact, we have seen this before. We've seen, what was the luxury brand? Was it Dolce & Gabbana, or was it Prada, or was it Louis Vuitton? Someone just did something with Bored Apes. I can't remember their name right now. So I'm blanking on their name because I know Louis Vuitton just came out with their other NFTs. I know Dolce & Gabbana, they have NFTs, but someone just partnered with Bored Apes. And so if you have a Bored Ape, you're also given, kind of a special treatment within this luxury brand. And so that's kind of what you're talking about. And that's, of course, technically possible. It's just whether or not there's that business relationship and that marketing effort between those two companies.
Because I can imagine that you can create website when you move to the space where your Starbucks is closer than your Coffee Heaven, and then you want to switch your Coffee Heaven points to Starbucks points, right?
But why do we got to wait for that Coffee Heaven Starbucks partnership when you could just list your Starbucks NFT for sale on Mintable and then buy a Coffee Heaven NFT on Mintable?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's exactly what I was driving to. So if this, so that's effectively application. So again, this would be ownership rights. That's something that you own and you can transfer. So that's again, coming back to what I was saying, but I think that's the most applicable, and that's effectively loyalty point done in the new way.
Right. Loyalty points I think is the biggest interest that we get from clients.
Okay.
It makes the most sense to a lot of international brands. They already have loyalty programs. They've seen a decline in their loyalty programs due to COVID or for other reasons. One of our clients is a vacation platform. And through their NFT pass, you can get like 80% off the listed price of a hotel stay. So if you go on Google and you type in like, I want to stay at the Marriott in this city, they'll say like, I don't know, $200 a night. And then if you go through the vacation company that is using our technology, if you have that NFT, you'll get it for $50 a night, right? And so they have this special pricing because they have special agreements with like the Marriott or Hilton or name it. And so I'm just naming off hotel names. I don't know if they actually have agreements with those particular brands, but
so removing middlemen, mom test. What else? There are two more, right?
So the custodial wallet, I think, is huge, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to be a bank for your NFTs. So when my mom thinks about her NFTs, I'll give you an example. For Father's Day one year, I gave my dad some Ethereum, and I called him a while back, and I was like, do you still have that Ethereum?
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know. I haven't logged into Coinbase in forever. And I go, okay, well, do you still remember how to log into Coinbase? But in his brain, he associates crypto with Coinbase. It's not a wallet. It's just Coinbase, right? Yeah. And so that's the association that we're trying to create with Mintable and Mintology. And that's why there's going to be some massive upgrades to Mintable.com coming up in the next few months. It's going to be working with our Mintology clients so that when, my mom, my dad, that random person on the street gets that NFT from that brand, they don't have to think about, do I got to go to Starbucks.com? Do I got to go to coffeeheaven.com? No, they just immediately have it available at Mintable, and it's all organized very nicely. Within the click of a button, they can show that NFT to the brand or the employee at the store, who will then be able to process it. And that's the second thing we built, which is this merchant tool, which allows for employees of any company to be able to log in and do X, Y, and Z with that NFT. So on my phone, if I was a barista, we'll go back to Starbucks again, and I can go on my phone and I can log in as an employee through the employee portal for that. And when you are in the counter and you order your coffee, your NFT, after I've scanned the barcode at the POS system, the point of sale system, your NFT will magically update in real time, and you got your discount, or you get a free coffee, or whatever perks come with that NFT.
Nice.
And all of that is integrated, right? And even in the POS system itself, the point of sale system itself, right, that checkout counter, in that system itself, you can even integrate with our APIs so that every checkout could be an NFT. And you've seen this. If you go to any modern city, they'll have a touchpad where you have to put in your email to get your receipt, right? And I hate doing
do you
that.
think, is this something like similar to embedded finance? Is it embedded NFT? This type of approach, but you have piece of technology which you can, put on your traditional business, and it works, and you have the big structure behind, which works magic, and you don't have to worry about this. And then in this way, you actually can use this technology, but at the same time, you don't think about technology.
Yeah, I haven't thought about embedded NFT as a term for it. It is an accurate description, though, of what we're trying to build, which is that for the businesses, they don't need to hire blockchain developers. They don't need to know anything about blockchain.
Yeah.
Right. Any developer can integrate it through APIs. And then for the user doesn't leave the brand's website or the brand's interface or the brand's experience. But all the blockchain stuff is happening automatically in the background. They don't know about it. They'll get an email, of course. They'll get an email that says, hey, we created your wallet. Here's where you can access your NFTs in your wallet. If at any point you want to withdraw your wallet and take custody of it, you can do so here. And then when you're at the counter as well, when they scan your NFT, you'll get an email that says, hey, your NFT has been leveled up, or you received this free perk, or whatever it may be, right? So the goal essentially is to get us away from the PFP 10,000 NFT collection, right? Because that trend I saw very early on as a trend that was not going to last. And a lot of people who've been in the space as long as I have will also have the same sentiment. And I'm surprised that it's even lasted to the point where it's at now. And we've seen the NFT market really drop off. And we've seen a lot of scammers because of those 10,000 PFP collections. PFP stands for profile pictures, right? So that's the happy hippos or the grumpy gorillas or whatever, just
tells you about the market a lot, I think tells you about the market a lot.
Right. And so we want to move away from that, and we want to say, okay, what is the actual use cases and utilities of an NFT that can be applied to? And this is where we go back into that regulatory framework, because you're sitting there, you're talking to, so I've talked to the largest manufacturer of an individual product. I can't say the product because you'll know, because they kind of have a monopoly on it in the world. I've talked to the largest. We've talked to some of the largest companies that have monopolies on their entire industries, and they love the idea of NFTs. And it always goes back to the regulatory framework. In fact, one example I had, I'm sitting in front of 29 executives of a publicly listed company, and they said, this is great, but our main concern is monopoly laws. If we release an NFT and it's only on our platform, we're going to get hit with a monopoly law because X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, I mean, interesting, right? That is an interesting problem. And I can't really do anything about that. Like, that's not something that I threw out some ideas of how they could get around, making it, so that they don't have a monopoly on it. Ultimately, that was the deal breaker. Now, if you have something more extreme where, they say all NFTs need to be reported to FINRA, and all transactions of NFTs need to be reported to FinCEN, then we have a lot of other things that are going to come up in these conversations with brands, and it's going to stop them from doing anything with NFTs, which then stops the adoption. And we're back to 10,000 PFP NFT collections. And that's really what we want to get away from, because that's where people are losing money. That's where people are getting scammed. That's where you get a negative connotation of NFTs. People will look at it and they'll say, oh, this is just speculation. People are spending $2 million on an 8-bit pixel image of a zombie, right? Why would you do that? This is all a scam, blah, blah, blah. And that's all because of these PFPs. So we really want to move away from that. And we want to move into utility and real world aspects, because that's really what NFTs are all about. The very first NFT application I created was, I'm a big gym guy, and I have sapphires. And I made, before the 721 standard came out, I made a smart contract to certify and track my sapphires through an NFT. And that was back in 2017. And that was the very first NFT contract that I made. And that's the power of NFTs, right? Traceability, ownership, transferability, rights, and expansion of business models and user engagement, not selling pictures of animals in a Discord community, right?
Do you think we're gonna work on the naming convention for NFTs?
No. So I've actually,
it's like non-fungible. I mean, it's like non-fungible token. That's such a difficult, even in terms of construct. Logical construct is difficult.
I've been saying this since the very beginning. So I'll tell you the logo. If you Google like NFT, you'll see like this hexagon with the word NFT in it. That's horrible. That we need to get rid of. But the word NFT it's here to stay. And I'll tell you why. Do you know what DVD stands for?
No.
Exactly. But you use it. You know what ATM stands for, right? You know what USB stands for, right? But USB is such a weird term. You would think if I created this device today and I said, I'm going to call it the USB, you're going to be like, what? No, that's a bad name. But it's stuck, right? So I think the term NFT is going to stay. It rolls off the tongue. People understand it. And I don't think there is a better term for it because you don't really need to know it stands for non-fungible token. Like DVD, what does it stand for? It's like digital video. It's digital video disc or something. But you don't need to know that, right? You know what a DVD is. It's a movie or it's a CD or something like that, right? It doesn't matter
digital
what it is.
Video disc or digital versatile disc, for Christ's sake.
Right. But you understand the concept, and that's what NFT is, right? You understand what the NFT concept is. And a DVD is a great example because a DVD could be a murder trial, right? It could be evidence. It could also be a wedding film of, your wedding. It could be the birth of your child, or it could be a movie that's got copyright attached to it. It could be a video game that's got anti-piracy embedded into it so that you can't clone it, right? And so it could be all these versatile assets. And you know what we should not have is we should not have a regulator come in and say, you know what, all DVDs should be labeled as one thing, and they need to be regulated as one thing.
Yeah,
because that's not what.
And if you buy an NFT above 15,000, you need to report.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. If you buy a DVD above 15,000, you probably should report that. I would assume. I mean, it would have to be like a collector's item, right? Be like the first version of the Titanic or something.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, that's very interesting. Which jurisdiction is the best in terms of crypto market, you think, at the moment? I have big hopes for the UK, and I tell you why. I think there's, let's say, regulator, but there's like a lot of lawyers who are very creative, and there's a lot of like smart people in the legal industry. Some of them we know both, right? Who can actually work through the regulations and put like complex structures which are compliant, right? So I think UK is like, for me, if they do this right, we're gonna be huge, I think. But what's your view?
I think that it's really hard for me to say at this point. There is, I mean, it's definitely not America, I'll tell you that. But there's a lot of moving pieces. So even here in Singapore, there's been an amendment proposed to the Payment Services Act, which could affect the crypto industry. Back early on, Malta was supposedly, the blockchain hub. Excuse the dog barking in the background. It could be, Malta was the blockchain hub. Then you have, Switzerland. But over the years, it's transitioned, right? I think just a few years ago, if you wanted to do an ICO and launch a token, you had to set up your foundation in Portugal, I believe. If it was, I think it was Portugal. It was somewhere in South America. And now they've cracked down. And so now there's somewhere else that you would go if you want to launch an ICO. And so,
it used to be Gibraltar, there was like the place to issue tokens from. Gibraltar for Europe.
But is it anymore, or is it changed?
It's gone. No, it's gone. I mean, nobody wants to do this, and like, so yeah. So not Singapore, not Hong Kong, Dubai. Big question mark, I think, so.
I know, actually, you bring up a good point. So I forgot about Dubai and Hong Kong. So Hong Kong's recent movement, or legalization, I guess, of opening up crypto to the masses, that can be very promising. But again, that was very sudden, at least to me. I'm not looped into Hong Kong legislation. And I would still be hesitant to open up a company there, a crypto company, because if you've been in crypto long enough, you've heard the story. China bans Bitcoin. China bans this. China bans that, right? Nice. And so how is, Hong Kong just got assimilated back into China? What's going to happen next year? Is China going to come in and crack down? We don't know. And so that's why I say it's very hard to pinpoint what region, because it seems like almost every year it changes. Last year, Dubai was not on anyone's radar, right?
Yeah.
Like in the beginning of last year, in January of 2022, no one was talking about Dubai. And now Dubai is trying to be crypto friendly. No one was talking about Hong Kong in January of 2022, right? And now we're talking about it, right? In January of 2022.
European regulations, MiCA, do you think any good move or not?
I haven't looked too much into Mika.
All right.
I've seen some commentary. I know that it was a deciding factor for some firms to open up some offices in the UK because they have some clear guidance now. Whether or not, I haven't gone into the specifics of what that guidance is because it is fairly new. That's something on my list of things to do. I've been kind of caught up with the whole Binance, Coinbase debacle right now in the US. And so I need to check out Mika and see overall. Overall, it feels like other thought leaders in the industry are saying it's very positive. It's not perfect, is what they're saying, but it's positive. It's a positive, right step.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I'll look into, and then who knows, maybe we'll be in the UK.
I think for your segment is really, I think, Mika is quite good, because that's actually the best. The biggest winners of Mika would be big companies who wants to come into digital asset space, right? Which I think is more against the US market. Since
it's a lengthy legislation that just got passed, do you want to, for the listeners, explain a little bit about Mika and its implications?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, you have three categories of digital assets, which are not covering everything, including NFT, but at the same time, you can work out some of the, NFTs to be under one or second, category of assets. And in this way, you have to then set up certain, fill out certain requirements to be operators of this either assets as an issuer or platform when you are trading this. And it's a separate piece of legislation, which is not. So if you are not doing straight, let's say, equities, securities, all the stuff, you will be carved out from MiFID, for example, right? Because there's big concern to be caught under the financial instruments under MiFID, right? And this is carved out, so that's actually separate regulations. And if you are doing working in crypto, then it's pretty straightforward to create separate business vehicles for this and not being worried about being captured by being regulated under the traditional financial segment, right? Unless you will be caught by the SEC, right?
Well, so I guess in layman's terms, what you're saying is they've classified 3 different asset classes, right? So you're either a issuer token, you're either an exchange, or you're a facilitator of transactions, right? Or custodial. And what that essentially means is now that there's clear guidance for someone that wants to issue a token or someone that wants to open up a crypto exchange. Whereas if you go to America, there is no clear guidance.
No, exactly. And that's something which would be, big in terms of overall, market segmentation, right? Because you have, and I think, the reason for this, why EU went, this path is because there is effectively no equity market in continental Europe. So there's no one you challenging with this new regulations, right? So that's something which I think is quite opposite to the US, where you have the alternative, equity market created. So that's something which, and I see, for example, companies like 21 Finance, which is doing the not publicly listed equities to be tokenized, and then platform when you can trade it, which is pretty cool. I think, this would be a huge implication to the startups, industry, to like private companies. So let's see what's going to come up. So it's interesting. I was quite skeptical, but at the same time, I see 20 new businesses coming, in the last month to us to help, with the corporate onboarding.
Well, that's great that it's good for your business, but that also, goes back to your earlier point, which is, why haven't we seen NFTs get adopted? We can remove the word NFTs and replace it with crypto. And what you just said is a great example of being able to tokenize illiquid equity for a startup and then offer that. Why has that not happened yet?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why is because if you wanted to do that in America, you would not be able to.
Exactly.
And if you wanted to do that in the UK, you would not be able to until they have, the regulation set up. And in fact, there's very few countries, I think, that you would be able to do that in. And
even if you are able to do this, you cannot, promote this somewhere else. So that's, and this is like, it's such a big, we've been in the, we created startups, try to sell startups, small company shares, right? It's impossible. You get like hefty 50% discount, even if this is good company, right? So that's something which I'm looking forward, and let's see, like what's gonna happen with this. Maybe there's gonna be NFT market for this, but then whether this is fungible or not fungible, right?
Well, actually, one of the things I want to say is when you mentioned there's going to be an NFT market for this, I think one of my goals this year is to redefine the phrase NFT marketplace. Right now, when you think of a marketplace or NFT marketplace, you think of just a normal marketplace. What you would think of Amazon or OpenSea or Mintable now, you go through, you browse products. We're going to redefine that. And so when you say maybe there'll be an NFT marketplace around that, I hope there won't be. For my new definition of what an NFT marketplace is, I hope there will be a marketplace, a traditional, Amazon, Etsy, the marketplaces that you're used to, right? That marketplace should still exist, and that would be great if it was a tokenized, if I say 100 shares of the startup is one NFT and we throw it up on a marketplace, sure. But I think if I'm successful in achieving my goal for Mintable, by the end of this year, when you say NFT marketplace and you look at Mintable, you're going to say, oh, that is an actual NFT marketplace. And that is very different than these marketplaces who are marketplaces. And you see how I'm saying one's a marketplace and one's an NFT marketplace, right? And so this is where we need to push the space forward, and we cannot cater to what is going on right now. And that's what I've done since 2018 is I pushed the space forward, the NFT space in particular, and I'm going to continue to do so. And so I'm super excited for this year. And hopefully the MiCA regulation is good overall, and it's followed up with some additional legislation that's also very beneficial for crypto. And then America gets their heads together. Yeah, they're acting. Thank you. I was thinking of another word. And they get their act together, and then we see something similar in America as well, right? Because things are going to be moving very quickly, I think, in the next 2 years around CBDCs and cryptocurrencies
CBDCs, that's another, big topic, Yeah. Listen, I think, we need to do another round, of this, because I have we didn't even start with how do you stake on NFTs, all this stuff, there's so many questions still left. But it was great conversation. I think, one point which is clear right now, it's all about the challengers, people with new ideas trying to push hard, the existing frameworks. And I think this is what crypto is about as well, right? This is exactly, people oh no, we don't agree what you say. It's because it wouldn't work, right? And this is how it could work, and you should think about this from this perspective. So listen, Zach, thank you very much. This is all exciting, and I'm pleased that that you're pushing so hard in Mintable. It was great. Thank you.
Likewise, man. I appreciate it, and let's do this again.
Crypto Compliance, brought to you by Gatenox.